For centuries, military leaders have had this dream of a battlefield with perfect clarity. No fog, no confusion, just pure, clean information that leads to a decisive win. And for a lot of folks, AI looks like the answer. But what if AI doesn't get rid of the fog of war? What if it just creates a totally new and maybe even more complicated kind of fog? Okay, let's dive into this. To really get this, we've got to go back to the 19th century military guru, Karl von Clausewitz. This quote right here just nails the timeless problem of war. It's not about how complex your plan is, it's about the million little things that can and absolutely will go wrong when boots hit the ground. And he had a special name for this whole phenomenon. He called it friction, and it's basically the huge gap between how war looks on a map and how it actually plays out. Think of it as the tangled mess of pure chance, human mistakes, and just the sheer unpredictability that's always been a part of conflict. This idea of friction, well, it's the absolute key to understanding what AI is really doing to the modern battlefield. All right, so here's the game plan for this explainer. First up, we're going to look at war's oldest headache, that classic friction. Then we'll get into the main event, this new idea of algorithmic friction. After that, we'll explore what it even means to be in command when AI is in the mix. And finally, we're going to look at a solution that sounds, well, a little weird, the argument for intentionally slowing things down. So let's kick things off with that classic challenge. For as long as people have been fighting wars, commanders have been battling one main enemy. And it's not the guy on the other side of the battlefield, it's uncertainty. For most of history, this fog of war was all about scarcity. You just didn't have enough information. Reports from the front would be hours or days late, they were probably wrong, or you just got nothing. You had commanders making life and death calls based on a puzzle where half the pieces were missing. The whole game was about getting enough information fast enough to do something with it. And that brings us right to the promise of today. With AI, we can suck in data from thousands of sensors practically in real time. The dream is to finally blow away the fog, to get this perfect, godlike view of the battlefield and act with blinding speed. But is that what's really happening? Well, here's the twist. The argument we're digging into is that AI doesn't actually get rid of friction, it just transforms it. We're essentially trading in our old, familiar fog for a brand new one, a much weirder one called algorithmic friction. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Look at that shift. We've gone from a problem of scarcity, not enough info, to a problem of saturation. We're drowning in data. The danger isn't that we don't know enough, it's that we're overwhelmed by information that has hidden biases and maybe even enemy deception baked right into it by the very AI that's feeding it to us. So let's be super clear. Algorithmic friction is the new uncertainty. It's ironically created by the very systems that were supposed to kill uncertainty. It's born from too much data, from hidden flaws in the AI's programming, from a pace of decision-making that's just too fast for humans, and maybe the most dangerous part, our willingness to just trust a black box technology we don't completely understand. So where does this new friction actually come from? Well, you've got a few big culprits. You could have contaminated data that's poisoning the system from the start. The AI model itself has biases it learned from its training data, which might be useless in a new situation. Your enemy could be actively tricking your sensors to fool your AI. The system might say it's 95% confident, but what does that even mean? And maybe the biggest risk of all is the pressure to prioritize speed, the tempo, over getting to the actual truth of what's happening. You can see how this completely flips the script on what it means to be a commander. I mean, if you can't just blindly trust what the machine is telling you, how in the world do you lead an army that depends on it? It forces a massive shift in what a commander even does. The commander isn't some grand chess master moving pieces anymore. No, they're more like the conductor of a wild, unpredictable orchestra filled with human musicians and autonomous AI soloists. Their job isn't to make every single decision, but to somehow guide this entire ecosystem of humans and machines towards the same goal. And trust me, that is so much harder than it sounds. You could have different AIs with goals that are totally at odds with each other. One AI is trying to save fuel, another's trying to stay hidden, and they give you conflicting advice. The data across the network is all updating at different speeds. A tiny error in one system can start a domino effect, leading to a massive failure down the line. And when it all goes wrong, who's accountable? The commander, always. And this is why we have to bring it back to Clausewitz one more time. He was the one who reminded us that war is never just about blowing things up. It's a political tool for achieving a political objective. That's why human control is simply not negotiable. It doesn't matter how smart the tech gets, it has to stay a tool, an instrument that serves human judgment and political goals, period. So, if the big problem is that AI is moving way too fast and creating all this new friction, the solution's going to sound kind of crazy. It's not about building a faster, smarter AI. It's about deliberately, intentionally engineering pauses for human beings to think. It's about creating what the source material calls moral friction. So here's what that looks like in practice. Step 1, your sensors observe what's happening. Step 2, the AI orients itself to all that data and spits out a recommended action. But then, and this is the game changer, step 3, you pause. You build in a mandatory delay, a circuit breaker where a human has to check the AI's homework. Only after that human verification does a commander decide to give the green light, and only then does the system act. That pause, that's where judgment lives. So how do you actually do this? Well, it's not just a theory. It breaks down into real-world actions. In force design, you literally build these pauses into your systems and your training. You run drills where slow is smooth is the mantra. For leadership, you have to teach commanders to be algorithmically literate, so they know how to question the machine, not just obey it. And with your allies, you absolutely have to agree on the ethical rules of the road and be transparent when you find flaws. And at the end of the day, that's what this all boils down to. Chasing some fantasy of a perfectly fast, frictionless war is a dangerous illusion. The real job is to understand this new algorithmic friction and then shape it. To design our systems and train our leaders in a way that always keeps human judgment and political purpose in the driver's seat. Which kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. In this new age, an age that is absolutely obsessed with speed, where machines think and act in microseconds, maybe our most powerful, most human weapon isn't our ability to go faster, but having the wisdom and the courage to know exactly when to hit pause.